Millionaire went to his ex-wife's house to laugh at her. But when he saw her situation, Julian Sterling adjusted the rearview mirror of his high-end luxury sedan and smiled maliciously as he looked at the address scribbled on the paper. After 3 years with no news from Valerie, his ex-wife, he had finally discovered where she was living through a private investigator he had hired out of pure, spiteful curiosity. The idea of seeing her in a humiliating situation after all the pride she had shown during the divorce amused him immensely. He imagined finding her living off the kindness of a relative, perhaps working as a maid, finally paying the price for rejecting his attempts at reconciliation 3 years ago. Julian parked the imported car right in front of the small rundown shack, purposely so all the neighbors would see his wealth. The contrast was stark. His bespoke Italian suit cost more than that entire house was worth, and he knew it. As he approached the half-open door, he expected to hear pleas or requests for help. Instead, what he found left him momentarily speechless. Valerie was kneeling on the dirt floor, near an improvised fire, stirring something in an old dented pot. Her clothes were torn and stained with mud. Her hands, once soft and well-kept, now showed calluses and small wounds. She showed no surprise at seeing him standing in the doorway, just kept stirring the food, as if his presence were the most natural thing in the world. "Look who decided to show up," she said without lifting her eyes from the pot. "After 3 years." Julian expected tears, desperation, pleas for forgiveness. Instead, he found a woman who seemed to have aged 10 years, but who still maintained that proud posture that irritated him so much. "Valerie, he began but was interrupted. "You what, Julian? What exactly did you come here for?" The question caught him off guard. He had rehearsed several ironic phrases on the way, but faced with that scene they all seemed inadequate. Where were the children? Why was she living like this? "I came to see how you were doing," he lied, trying to regain his composure. "Now you've seen. You can leave." The coldness in her voice unsettled him. Julian looked around and noticed details that had previously gone unnoticed. There were 3 small, clean plates neatly arranged on a wooden board. Patched but clean school uniforms hanging on an improvised clothesline. The children. "Where are the children?" he asked, feeling a tightness in his chest he couldn't explain. "At school. Where they should be." "Valerie, why are you living like this? You could have filed for alimony, you could have—" She finally looked up and stared at him. Her gaze was not one of pleading or shame. It was pure contempt. "Could have begged you. Could have humiliated myself even more. No, thank you. I prefer to live like this. I prefer." Julian felt disarmed. He had imagined this moment so many times, always with her apologizing, recognizing she had been a fool to reject his return. He never imagined he would still find that stubborn, proud woman he had known. "But the children, Valerie. Look at this place. It's not fair to them." "And since when do you care about the children?" she retorted, standing up and wiping her hands on her torn apron. 3 years, Julian. 3 years without a call, without a visit, without a cent of help. You're the one who wouldn't let me see them. That's a lie, she shouted, losing her composure for the first time. You're the one who decided it was easier to pretend they didn't exist when I wouldn't take you back. The argument was interrupted by the sound of children's voices approaching. Julian immediately recognized his children's laughter, even after all this time. His heart raced when he saw Ethan, 15 years old, Maya, 12, and little Lily, just 8. The children stopped at the door upon seeing him. Ethan, the oldest, immediately positioned himself protectively in front of his younger sisters. "What is he doing here, Mom?" asked Ethan, with a hostility that hurt more than Julian wanted to admit. "He was leaving," replied Valerie, but Julian intervened. "Ethan, I am your father." "Father?" The teenager laughed bitterly. "A father doesn't abandon his kids for 3 years." Maya hid behind Ethan, clearly intimidated by her father's presence. Only Lily, still too young to fully understand the situation, looked at him with curiosity. "Mommy, who is this man?" asked the little girl. The question hit Julian like a punch to the gut. His youngest daughter didn't remember him. It's Daddy, Lily," said Valerie softly. "You were very little when he left. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Julian knelt down to the girl's level, who watched him with that natural curiosity of children. "Hi, Lily. You've grown so much. Are you rich?" she asked, pointing to his expensive clothes. "Why doesn't Mommy have nice clothes like yours?" The innocence of the question was like a sharp blade. Julian looked at Valerie and saw tears welling up in her eyes, tears she was fighting to hold back. "Lily, go play inside," said Valerie quickly. "But I want to know why Daddy has a nice car and we don't have any car." Ethan took his sister by the hand. "Come on, Lily. Daddy isn't staying." "But why not?" insisted the girl. "Because he doesn't like us," answered Maya, speaking for the first time. Her voice was low but full of hurt. Julian felt as if the ground had vanished beneath his feet. "Maya, that's not true." "Isn't it?" Ethan turned to him angrily. "Then where were you? Where were you when Lily had pneumonia and was in the hospital for 5 days? Where were you when I got beat up at school because the other kids laughed at my worn-out sneakers? Where were you when Maya cried all night because she didn't have money for the school trip?" Each word was a stab. Julian looked at Valerie, searching for some explanation, some way to defend himself, but she just watched the scene with a weary expression. I didn't know." "Of course you didn't know," said Ethan, "because you never asked." An elderly neighbor appeared at the door of the house next door, clearly drawn by the raised voices. "Everything all right over there, Valerie?" "Everything's fine, Mrs. Hattie. It's the children's father." The woman, who must have been about 70, looked Julian up and down with evident disapproval. "Ah, so it's you. I've heard about you." "Mrs. Hattie, please," pleaded Valerie, embarrassed. "No, let me speak." The elderly woman approached. "Do you know how many times this woman fainted from hunger to give food to your children? Do you know how many early mornings she stayed up washing clothes for others to earn a little money?" Julian felt the ground opening beneath his feet. "She never asked for child support, never went after you, just works herself to the bone to support these kids alone." "Mrs. Hattie, that's enough," said Valerie, clearly ashamed. "Enough nothing. This man needs to know. You work 16 hours a day, girl. You wash clothes, clean houses, do office janitorial work late into the night. And you know why? Because you're too proud to ask for a single cent from him." Julian looked at Valerie, who averted her gaze. For the first time, he began to understand the real scale of the situation. "Why did you never come to me?" he asked. "For what? So you could throw it in my face that I need you? So you could use the kids to blackmail me into coming back?" "No, thank you." "But they're my daughters too." "Are they? Then where were you when they were teething, when they learned to walk? When they had a fever?" Valerie's voice began to tremble. "You only remember you have children when you want to use it to humiliate me." "That's not true, isn't it? Then tell me one thing. When is Lily's birthday?" Julian opened his mouth, but no words came out. He didn't know. "March 15th, said Maya quietly. "It was last week. She turned 8. The girl looked at her father with those big, sad eyes. "Mommy made a cake with flour and sugar that the neighbor gave her. She didn't have money for a candle, so she made one with beeswax she found." Julian felt like disappearing. How had he reached this point? When had he become the kind of man who didn't even know his own daughter's birthday? "I can help," he said finally. "I can give money, I can—" "We don't want your money," Ethan cut in. "We don't want anything from you." "Ethan!" scolded Valerie. "It's true, Mum. We've managed without him for 3 years. We don't need him now." But it was Lily who broke the tense silence that followed. "I wish I had a daddy," she said quietly. "The other girls at school have daddies. Why can't I have one?" Julian knelt again before his youngest daughter, tears in his eyes. "You do have a daddy, Lily. I am your daddy. I got lost along the way." "Can you stay for dinner?" she asked with the innocence typical of an 8-year-old. Julian looked at Valerie, who seemed torn between anger and compassion. "Lily, Daddy can't—" "Why can't he, Mommy? The table is small, but it fits everyone." "Because he has his own house, sweetie. A big, beautiful house." "But I wanted him to live with us," insisted Lily. Maya moved closer to her younger sister. "Lily, Daddy doesn't want to live with us. He has a different life." "But why can't he have both lives?" asked the girl, posing a question that was simple in its innocence, but devastating in its implication. Julian couldn't answer. He kept looking at those 3 children he had abandoned, at the woman he had loved and who now struggled alone to survive, and wondered how he had come to this point. "I need to go," he said finally, standing up. "Of course," Valerie replied coldly, "as always. But I want to help. I want to make things right." "Making things right would have meant being here for the last 3 years," said Ethan. "Now it's too late." Julian walked toward the car, feeling the weight of the gazes from the family he had abandoned. When he reached the door of the high-end luxury sedan, he turned one last time. Lily had run to the wooden fence that separated the house from the street. "Daddy, are you coming back?" He looked at his daughter, then at Valerie, who watched the scene with her arms crossed. I don't know, Lily. But you promise you'll think about it." Julian felt a tightness in his chest. "I promise. You promise. I promise. The girl smiled, and for a moment Julian saw a flash of the joyful child Lily could be if she had a different life. He got into the car, but couldn't start it immediately. He sat there, watching the family through the window. Valerie had gone back near the fire, but now the 3 children were around her. Even in poverty, even in hardship, there was something there that he had lost a long time ago: true love. Julian started the car and drove away slowly, but he couldn't go far. He stopped at a gas station a few blocks away and sat there, trying to process everything he had seen and heard. He had gone there to feel superior, to laugh at Valerie's situation. Instead, he discovered she had become a woman far stronger and more dignified than he would ever be. He discovered he had lost 3 years of his children's lives, 3 years he would never be able to recover. The worst part was admitting that Ethan was right. He had abandoned the family not out of anger or resentment, but out of pure convenience. It was easier to pretend they didn't exist than to deal with the responsibility of being a father and ex-husband. Julian picked up his phone and dialed a number. "Mr. Harrison, it's Julian Sterling. I need you to get the papers for child support. Urgent." "Julian, but you always said you wouldn't give a cent to your ex-wife." "I changed my mind, and I want it to be retroactive, 3 years." "Julian, that's going to be a considerable amount." "I know. Can you arrange it?" "Of course, but may I ask what changed?" Julian looked toward the house where he had left his family. "I rediscovered that I have children." He hung up the phone and went back to his car, but instead of driving away, he returned to Valerie's house. This time, he got out of the car with a different posture. He was no longer the arrogant man who had arrived there an hour before. Valerie was sitting on the doorstep, watching the children play in the small backyard with sticks and stones. "Forget something?" she asked when she saw him approaching. "I forgot to apologize," he said. "Apologize?" She laughed bitterly. "Apologies don't fill bellies, Julian." "I know, that's why I'm going to do more than apologize." Valerie looked at him with suspicion. "I just called my lawyer. I'm going to formalize the child support, retroactive for 3 years. I don't want your money out of pity." "It's not pity, it's an obligation, one I should have fulfilled a long time ago." Valerie was silent for a moment. "And then? After you've paid your heavy conscience, what happens? You disappear for another 3 years?" The question stung, but Julian knew he deserved it. "I don't know. I don't know how to be a father, Valerie. I never did. But I want to learn." "Learn?" She stood up, angry. "They're not lab rats for you to experiment on, Julian. They're children. They're your children that you abandoned. I know I ruined everything. You did. Lily doesn't even know who you are. Maya has had nightmares since you left. And Ethan hates me because he thinks it was my fault you left." "Why does he think that?" "Because he was little and didn't understand. He thought if I had gone back to you, you would have stayed with them." Julian felt even worse. "And you never explained to him that—" "That what, Julian? That you gave me an ultimatum? Either come back to me or never see the children again. How do I explain that to a 12-year-old? Julian had completely forgotten that conversation. At the time, he was blinded by anger and wounded pride. He had used the children as bargaining chips, hoping Valerie would give in. "I was wrong." "You were. And now you want to fix everything with money? No, I want to fix it by being a father, by being present, by being what I should have been from the start. Valerie studied him for a long moment. The children are hurt, Julian, especially Ethan and Maya. They've built a wall to protect themselves. It won't be easy to tear that wall down. I know, but I want to try. And if you give up halfway, if it gets too hard and you decide to disappear again, what happens to them? I won't disappear. You've said that before. Julian had no answer for that. He knew his words were worthless after 3 years of absence. Then give me a chance to prove I've changed. A chance? Valerie laughed humorlessly. Julian, they gave you chances every single day for 3 years. Every time Lily asked why Daddy didn't come visit her. Every time Ethan pretended he didn't care that you didn't show up for school events. Every time Maya cried in secret because she thought you didn't like her anymore. Each word was a stab. Julian began to understand the real extent of the damage he had caused. How can I even start to fix this? I don't know if you can. Maybe it's too late. You can't be serious. Why can't I be? Did you think you could show up here after 3 years and everything would just go back to normal? That all you had to do was want it for everything to be forgiven and forgotten? No, you just came here to laugh at my misfortune, said Valerie, getting straight to the point. Didn't you? You wanted to see me humiliated, destroyed, begging for help. Julian lowered his head, ashamed to admit she was right. That's why you hired that private investigator, to find out where I was and how I was living. How do you know about the investigator? Because he showed up here asking the neighbors questions. Did you think no one would talk about a man in a bespoke Italian suit asking about me in a place like this? Julian realized how naive and cruel he had been. Valerie, you came here expecting to find me on my knees begging you to take me back. You came here expecting me to admit I can't live without you. And can you? He asked without thinking. The question came out before he could control himself, and he immediately regretted it when he saw Valerie's expression. I can. And that's the part that bothers you the most, isn't it? The fact that I survived without you. That's not it. Yes, it is. You can't stand that I refuse to come back. You can't stand that I prefer to live like this than to depend on you. Julian fell silent because he knew she was right. His male ego couldn't stand having been rejected. But you know what's worse, Julian. You used our children as a weapon. You punished them because I didn't come back to you. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. You said, if you don't come back to me, you'll never see me or the children again. And you vanished. How can a 40-year-old man be so immature? The question hung in the air. Julian had no answer because he couldn't justify his actions even to himself. I was angry. At me, not at the children. They had nothing to do with our marital problems. You're right. I acted like a coward. You did. And now you show up here after 3 years thinking you can fix everything. Ethan appeared in the doorway, clearly having heard part of the conversation. Mum, you're not going to take anything from him, are you? Ethan, no, Mom. We've managed without him until now. Why would we need him now? Julian looked at his oldest son and saw his own stubbornness reflected in the boy. Ethan, I know you're angry with me. Angry? The teenager laughed. I feel nothing for you. You don't exist to me. Ethan, don't talk to your father like that, Valerie reprimanded. Father? What father, Mom? A father is someone who raises you, who's present, who cares. That's just a man who shared some DNA with me. The words hit Julian like punches. You have every right to be angry. I'm not angry. You get angry at people you care about. I don't care about you. Ethan, that's enough, Valerie said firmly. Why is it enough, Mom? Why do I have to respect someone who never had any respect for me? Julian saw tears in his son's eyes despite the hard tone. You're right, he said. You're absolutely right not to respect me. I've done nothing to earn your respect. Ethan seemed surprised by the response. Then why are you here? Because I finally understood I made the biggest mistake of my life, and I want to try to fix it, if you'll let me. And if we don't? Julian looked at his son, then at Valerie. Then I'll accept it. But I'll keep meeting my financial obligations to you because I should have done that from the start, no matter what. Ethan fell silent, processing the answer. You can talk pretty now, but how do we know you won't give up again when things get hard? You don't. I'll have to prove it. I'll have to. And how are you going to prove it? By being here, by being a father, doing what a father does. And what does a father do? Asked Ethan with irony. Julian realized he didn't know how to answer. He had never really been a father. I'll have to learn. Learn? At 15, you're going to learn to be my father? I'll try. Ethan looked at his mother, then back at Julian. Do you know the difference between you and my mom? When life got hard, she stayed. When life got hard for you, you left. I know. Do you really? Do you know there were nights Lily cried calling for you and Mom had to make up excuses? Do you know I lied to my friends for 2 years saying you were away on a business trip? Why did you do that? Because it was easier to lie than to admit my father didn't care about me. Julian felt the urge to hug his son, but knew he had no right. Ethan, I always cared about you. That's a lie, the boy exploded. If you cared, you would have been here when Lily almost had pneumonia and was hospitalized. If you cared, you would have seen Mum working 16 hours a day to buy our school supplies. If you cared, you wouldn't have let us go hungry. You went hungry? Asked Julian, horrified. Valerie and Ethan exchanged a look. Ethan, you don't have to... Yes, I do, Mum. He needs to know. There were weeks we only ate flour with salted water because we didn't have money for anything else. Mum would go without eating so there'd be more for us. Julian felt nauseous. Why didn't you come to me? Because you made it very clear you wanted nothing to do with us, said Ethan. Because Mum has too much pride to beg. And because you're the kind of person who would use our need to blackmail Mom into coming back to you. I would never do that. Yes, you would, interrupted Valerie. Because that's exactly what you did when we were separating. You used the children as bargaining chips. Julian couldn't deny it because he knew it was true. Maya appeared at the door, drawn by the raised voices. Why are you all shouting? We're not shouting, honey, said Valerie softly. Is Daddy leaving again? Asked the girl. The question was simple but loaded with fear. Julian realized Maya was afraid of getting attached to him and being abandoned again. I don't know, Maya, answered Julian honestly. That depends on you. On us? The girl seemed surprised. On what you want. If you want me to be part of your lives, I'll do my best to be a better father. If you don't, I'll respect that. Maya looked at Ethan, then at her mother. What if I want him to, but Ethan doesn't? Then you'll have to talk and decide together, said Julian. Like a family? She asked. Like a family, he confirmed. Lily came running from the back of the yard. Can I be in the conversation too? Of course, said Valerie. You three need to decide if you want Daddy, if you want him to be part of your lives. I do, said Lily immediately. I always wanted to have a real daddy. Maya was silent for a moment. If he promises he won't leave again, I want him too. Everyone looked at Ethan, who was clearly torn. And you, son? Asked Julian. I don't know, admitted Ethan. I spent 3 years learning not to need you. I don't know if I can go back. You don't have to go back, said Julian. We can start from scratch, like it's the first time we're getting to know each other. But it's not the first time. You've been my biological father for 15 years. You just haven't been my real father. You're right. But can I try to be one now? Ethan looked at his sisters, then at his mother. Mom, what do you think? I think you need to decide this on your own. It's about you and your father. I'm not going to give my opinion. But you're not going back to him, right? Asked Ethan, worried. No, our story ended 3 years ago. This is just about you being his children. Julian felt a pang of sadness, but knew he had no right to expect anything different. Ethan, insisted Lily, are you going to let Daddy be our daddy? Ethan sighed. If he promises he'll really stay, no matter what happens, if he promises he won't use us to hurt Mum, if he promises he'll be a real father. I promise all of that, said Julian quickly. Then I accept, but with one condition. What is it? The first time you disappear, the first time you lie to us, the first time you use us for something, it's over. Forever. Julian extended his hand to his son. I accept your conditions. Ethan shook his father's hand, but Julian could feel the tension in the grip. Now what happens? Asked Maya. Now we talk about how it's going to be, said Valerie. About visits, about child support, about how it will work. Can I suggest something? Asked Julian. Go ahead, said Valerie. What if we start slow? I can come here a few times a week, spend time with them, get to know them again. And the child support? Asked Ethan, getting straight to the point. I'll get everything in order, retroactive for the 3 years, as I already told your mother. How much? Asked the teenager. Ethan, scolded Valerie. No, Mom, we have a right to know. Your whole life you worked like crazy because he gave nothing. Now I want to know exactly how much he's going to give. Julian admired his son's maturity, even though it hurt to be questioned this way. $3,000 a month for each of you, he said. And I'll pay everything that's in arrears too. Ethan did the math mentally. That's $9,000 a month just for current support? Yes, and the back pay. I'll have to calculate it, but it should be around $300,000. Valerie paled at the amount. Julian, that's too much money. It's the least I can do. It's what you would have received if I had been responsible from the start. Ethan looked at his mother. Mum, with this money we can get out of here. We can have a real house. Ethan. No, Mum, we suffered too much. If he wants to pay now, we accept. It's our right. Julian saw that he had raised a son with a strong personality, who knew how to fight for his own rights. Ethan is right, he said. It's your right. It should have been like this from the beginning. And will you be able to pay all that? Asked Maya, concerned. I will. My company is doing well. I can pay. What company? Asked Lily. I have a construction company. We build houses and buildings. Can you build a house for us? Asked the girl. Julian smiled for the first time since he had arrived there. I can. If you want, I can build a house just for you. Really? Lily's eyes sparkled. Really? With a room for each of us? With a room for each of you? And a bathroom inside the house? As many bathrooms as you want. Lily clapped her hands with joy, but Ethan kept a serious expression. And what's the price going to be? He asked. What price? You don't do anything for free. What's the price of the house? Julian understood his son's distrust. There's no price, Ethan. It's a gift. It's the least I can do after 3 years of absence. I don't want your gift. Ethan, scolded Maya. No, he's right, said Julian. Ethan, what if I don't give the house as a gift? What if I set up a mortgage in your mother's name and I pay the installments as part of your child support? Ethan thought for a moment. So the house would be ours, not yours? It would be yours. I would just be paying. Then I accept. Valerie had remained silent throughout the entire negotiation, but now she intervened. Julian, that's a lot of money, a huge responsibility. Are you sure you can deliver on everything you're promising? I am. And if something happens to me, it's all in the will. You'll all be protected. You made a will? Asked Maya. I'm going to do it now. With the 3 of you as the sole beneficiaries. Ethan seemed surprised by this. Why sole? Don't you have any other family? I have my parents, but they don't need money. You are my priority now. And if you marry again? If you have other children? Asked Ethan. If I marry again, my wife will know from the start that you are my priority. And if I have other children, they'll be your siblings, not your competitors. Ethan nodded, seeming satisfied with the answer. When are we going to see this new house? Whenever you want. I can show you some lots, some blueprints, and you can choose. Can I pick the color of my room? Asked Lily. You can pick everything. Color, furniture, decor. And can I have a pink room? You can have a room any color you want. Even if it's a really loud, bright pink? The girl insisted. Julian laughed. Even if it's a really loud, bright pink. Lily ran to hug her father's legs. It was the first show of affection he had received since arriving there. Thank you, Daddy. Julian knelt and hugged his youngest daughter, feeling an emotion he hadn't felt in years. Thank you, Lily, for giving me a second chance. Maya approached timidly and also hugged her father. Ethan stood still, watching the scene. Ethan? Julian extended an arm to his oldest son. The teenager hesitated for a moment, but finally approached and joined the family hug. Valerie watched the scene with a mix of emotions. She was happy to see her children happy, but also worried about the future. "And now?" she asked when they separated. "Now I'm going to deliver on what I promised," said Julian, "and I'm going to learn to be a father." "It's going to be hard," Ethan warned. "We're not going to make it easy just because you're paying for everything." "I don't expect you to make it easy. I hope to have the chance to earn your love again." "Not again," corrected Maya. "For the first time. Because we were too little to remember you loving us." His daughter's correction stung, but Julian knew she was right. "Then for the first time," he said. "I'll earn your love for the first time." "When will you start?" asked Lily. "Can I start now? Can I stay for dinner like you suggested?" Lily looked at her mother. "Can he, Mom?" Valerie hesitated. "There's not much food." "I can go get food," offered Julian. "No," said Ethan quickly. "If he's staying, he eats what we eat. No special treatment." Julian understood this was another test. "Of course. What are you having for dinner?" "Potato and egg soup," replied Maya. "Sounds delicious." "You don't have to lie," said Ethan. "We know you're used to better food." "Ethan, I've eaten very well for the last 3 years. You haven't. Anything I eat with you will be the best food of my life." Ethan seemed disarmed by the response. "All right, but you sit on the floor like us. We don't have enough chairs for everyone." "Perfect." Julian took off his expensive bespoke Italian suit jacket and laid it over the high-end luxury sedan. He rolled up his shirt sleeves and joined the family around the fire. The soup was indeed simple, but Julian ate it as if it were the best meal of his life. During dinner, the children began to open up and talk about school, about their friends, about their dreams. Lily wanted to be a veterinarian to care for abandoned animals. Maya wanted to be a teacher like the one she most admired at school. Ethan wanted to be an engineer like his father, though he was reluctant to admit it. "Why an engineer?" asked Julian. Because I always liked building things. And because," Ethan hesitated, "because what?" "Because I wanted to build a good house for my mom, a house where she wouldn't have to work so hard." Julian felt a tightness in his chest. His oldest son had taken on adult responsibilities at 15. "Ethan, you don't need to worry about that. It's my responsibility to take care of your mother and you." "You haven't so far." "Not so far, but starting today I will." "For how long?" "Forever." "You can say that now. But what if you get tired of us? What if it's too hard? What if we disappoint you?" Julian stopped eating and looked directly into his son's eyes. "Ethan, I want you to understand something. You can't disappoint me, because anything you do will be better than I deserve. And I won't get tired of you because you are the best thing I've ever done in my life. The only truly good thing I've ever done." Ethan fell silent, processing the words. "What if we mess up? What if we don't get good grades in school? What if we're not the perfect kids you want? Ethan, I don't want perfect kids. I want you. With flaws, qualities, problems, joys. I want you just the way you are." "Even if Ethan is rude sometimes?" asked Maya. "Even if Ethan is rude sometimes?" "Even if I cry a lot?" asked Lily. "Even if you cry a lot?" "And even if we don't want to call you Dad at first?" asked Maya. "Even if you never want to call me Dad, you can call me whatever you want. What's important is that I get to be here with you." The children exchanged glances. "Can we call you by your name?" asked Ethan. "You can call me by my name until you feel comfortable calling me Dad, and if you never feel comfortable, that's okay too." "Julian," Lily tested. "It's weird calling you Julian." "Then call me whatever feels better." "Can I call you Dad, Julian?" Julian smiled. "You can call me whatever you want, Lily." The evening wore on, and Julian discovered things about his children he never knew. Ethan was an excellent student but struggled with math. Maya was shy at school, but at home she was the most talkative of the three. Lily was as stubborn as her mother but had a huge heart. When it was time to leave, Julian didn't want to go. "Can I come back tomorrow?" he asked. "Tomorrow is Monday. We have school," said Ethan. Can I take you to school? The children looked at Valerie, who nodded. You can. But no showing off. No high-end luxury sedan at the school gate. Why not? Asked Julian, not understanding. Because the other kids will ask questions, and because our classmates don't need to know you have money, explained Maya. Julian began to understand how the family's financial situation had affected the children's psychology. I can borrow a simpler car, he offered. Or you could take the bus with us, suggested Ethan. Like a normal person. Ethan, scolded Valerie. No, he's right, said Julian. Like a normal person. What time do you leave? 6:30, answered Maya. Then I'll be here at 6:15. Can we have breakfast together? Do you know how to make breakfast? Asked Lily, doubtful. No, but I can learn. Mommy makes the best oatmeal in the world, said the girl. Then I'll learn to make oatmeal with Mommy. Valerie smiled for the first time since he had arrived. Oatmeal is easy. You just can't let it get lumpy. Oatmeal that doesn't get lumpy. Noted, Julian joked. When he finally said goodbye, the children were visibly more relaxed with his presence. Julian, Ethan called out as he reached the car. Yes? Thank you for coming back. Thank you for giving me a chance. Julian drove home with a strange feeling in his chest. For the first time in 3 years, he felt he was in the right place, doing the right thing. At home, his luxury apartment felt cold and empty. He looked around and realized there wasn't a single photo of his children. He had tried so hard to erase any memory of them that now he had nothing. The next day, Julian was at the house door at 6 in the morning with ingredients for a decent breakfast. You're early, Valerie observed when she saw him. I couldn't sleep well. I kept thinking about yesterday's conversation. And I realized I know nothing about you all. I don't know each one's favorite subject. I don't know what you like to play. I don't even know if you have friends at school. Do you really want to get to know them, or are you just going through the motions? I really want to know. I want to know everything about them. Valerie studied him for a moment. All right, I'll teach you how to make oatmeal, and you can talk to them during breakfast. The next few minutes were a new experience for Julian. He had never cooked in his life, but he followed Valerie's instructions carefully. Stir slowly, or it'll clump, she instructed. Like this? Yes. Now add the sugar little by little. The children started appearing one by one, still sleepy. Lily was the first, still in her nightgown. Is Julian making oatmeal? She asked, surprised. Trying to make, he corrected. Your mom is making it. I'm just stirring. Let me see, the girl approached the pot. Looks like it's working. You think so? I think so. But you have to taste it to be sure. Julian took a small spoon and tasted it. Is it too sweet? Lily tasted it too. It's good. Just like Mom's. Not just like, said Maya, who had just arrived. Mom's is better because she makes it with love. And I'm not making it with love? Asked Julian, joking. You're making it with care. But I still don't know if it's love. Maya's answer was innocent, but profound. Julian understood he would have to earn not only his children's forgiveness, but also the right to show them love. Ethan appeared dressed for school, already more serious and alert. Good morning, Julian greeted formally. Good morning, son. They had breakfast together, and Julian took the opportunity to ask questions about school, about teachers, about classmates. Do you have many friends at school, Ethan? A few. And what do you do together? We talk. We play football at recess. Normal stuff. Do you like football? Yes. Want to go see a game with me this weekend? Ethan hesitated. Which team do you root for? Dallas Cowboys. I root for the Philadelphia Eagles. Julian smiled. That's okay, we can watch an Eagles game. Really? Really? And I can root for the Eagles too, if you teach me. Ethan seemed surprised by his father's willingness to give up his own preferences. You'd switch teams for me? Ethan, I'd change anything for you guys. Anything? Anything. Ethan became thoughtful. What if we wanted to live far from here, like in another city? If you wanted, we'd move. And your job? I can work from anywhere. Or I can open a branch of the company in any city you want. Even if it was in the countryside? Even if it was in the countryside. Ethan seemed impressed by the answers. Why would you do all that? Because you are more important than anything in my life. It took me 3 years to realize that, but now I know. And if we don't want to live far away, if we want to stay right here, then we stay right here. But here is a poor place, observed Maya. So what? There's nothing wrong with being poor. The problem is going without. You can live wherever you want, have the life you want, but without going without. Mom says money can't buy happiness, said Lily. Your mom is right. Money can't buy happiness. But money buys security, buys health, buys education, and those things help you be happy. Are you happy? Asked Maya directly. The question caught Julian off guard. No, I haven't been happy for 3 years. Why? Because I missed you all every single day. Because I knew I had made the biggest mistake of my life by abandoning you. Then why did it take you so long to come back? Asked Ethan. Because I was proud. Because I thought you had to come looking for me. Because I was too much of a coward to admit I was wrong. And now you're not proud anymore? Now I have something more important than pride. I have you. And I won't let pride keep me away from you ever again. It was time to go to school, and Julian discovered that taking the bus with 3 kids was more complicated than he had imagined. You've never ridden the bus, have you? Observed Ethan, watching his father struggle with the change. Not much, admitted Julian. We'll teach you, offered Maya. First you have to have the exact money ready, explained Lily. The driver doesn't like it when you take too long to pay. And you have to go through the turnstile properly, added Ethan, and hold on to the bar when the bus sways. Julian felt like a tourist in his own country. The kids knew that routine perfectly, which was completely new to him. Do you take this bus every day? Every day, confirmed Maya, except when it rains really hard. Then we just walk. You walk when it rains? It's just that bus money sometimes runs short, explained Ethan, so Mom prefers to save it for emergencies. Julian made a mental note. Get transportation passes for the kids. At school, Julian was impressed by how his children were respected by their classmates and teachers. They had built a reputation of their own, based on character and intelligence, not on money or status. Daddy Julian, can you pick me up today? Asked Lily at the classroom door. Of course. What time do you get out? 12:30. I'll be here. Are you going to take the bus again? If you want, yes. You don't have to. You can come by car. Just not that really expensive car. Julian smiled. I'll take the company car. It's a normal car. During the hours the kids were in school, Julian took the opportunity to arrange the child support paperwork and start looking for land for the new house. He also did something he had never done before. Researched fatherhood, relationships with teenage children, how to regain the trust of kids who felt abandoned. He discovered it would be a long process requiring a lot of patience, but he was determined to make it work. When he returned to pick up the kids, he brought a company car, much more discreet than the high-end luxury sedan. This car is better, approved Ethan. Why is it better? Because it doesn't draw attention. Because it looks like it belongs here. Julian began to understand how flaunting wealth could be harmful to his children. On the way back, they stopped at the supermarket. You can choose anything you want for lunch, said Julian. The kids exchanged uncertain glances. Anything at all? Asked Lily. Anything. What if it's expensive? Lily, you can choose anything. Don't worry about the price. Even so, Julian noticed the kids chose simple products, always checking the prices before putting them in the cart. They had learned to be cautious with money. Ethan, aren't you going to choose anything special? It's not necessary. But I want you to choose. I want you to have things you like to eat. We like simple food, really. Julian realized he would also have to work on his children's self-esteem, as they had grown accustomed to not asking, not wanting, to being content with little. What if we did this? Each person picks one special thing they really like to eat, just one, and we buy it. The kids got excited about the idea. Lily chose strawberry yogurt. Maya chose filled cookies. Ethan, after much hesitation, chose ham for sandwiches. They were simple choices, showing how restricted their lives had been over the past 3 years. At home, Julian helped Valerie prepare lunch. She was strangely quiet. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I'm thinking." "About what?" "About how it will be when they get used to you. About how it will be if you disappear again." "I'm not going to disappear." "You can't guarantee that, Julian. People change. Situations change." "What if I make a contract with you? A document that forces me to keep being a father, even if I change my mind?" Valerie looked at him in surprise. "What kind of contract?" "I don't know, maybe something that says if I abandon the kids again, I lose all my assets to them. Something that makes it impossible for me to quit." "You would do that?" "I would. Because I don't want to have the option to quit. I want it to be impossible for me to be a coward again." Valerie became thoughtful. "Why are you doing all this, Julian? Why now?" "Because I finally understood that having money means nothing if you don't have a family. Because I realized the last 3 years were the worst of my life, even though they were the most prosperous financially." "And what changed? What made you realize that?" Julian thought about the answer. "Seeing you all yesterday. Seeing how you managed without me. Seeing that you don't need me, but that I desperately need you." "You need us?" "I do. I need my children. I need to feel like a real father. I need to have a family." "And me? Do you need me too?" The question caught Julian off guard. He looked at Valerie, truly seeing her for the first time since he had arrived. I don't know. I know you are the mother of my children. I know you are a much better person than I imagined. But I don't know if there's still anything between us besides the children. At least you're being honest. I'm trying to be. Lies have already caused enough trouble. What if there is? What if there's still something between us? Then we'll have to figure it out together. But the children come first. Anything that might exist between us will only work if it doesn't hurt them." Valerie nodded. "I agree. They've already suffered too much because of us." "Because of me," Julian corrected. "They suffered because of me. Because of us. I'm also to blame. I was too proud, too stubborn. I could have tried to look for you, for the children's sake. You tried. I was the one who didn't want to listen. I could have insisted more. Valerie, it's not your fault at all. You did what you could with the resources you had. I'm the one who abandoned you. Still, I feel I could have done more. What matters is that now we can do things differently. We can work together for the children's good." "We can," she agreed. They all had lunch together, and Julian noticed how the family dynamic worked. The children talked naturally with their mother, told stories about school, shared inside jokes. He was still a stranger at that table, but he was slowly starting to be included in the conversations. "Julian," said Maya, "can you help Ethan with math?" "If he wants, I can try." "Are you good at math?" asked Ethan. "I'm an engineer. Math is my specialty. The teacher at school says I'm smart, but I have a block with math. Everyone can learn math. You just have to find the right way to explain it. Can you teach me?" "I can, whenever you want." "This afternoon?" This afternoon. Julian spent the afternoon helping Ethan with math exercises and discovered that his son really was very smart. The problem was that no one had had the time to dedicate themselves to teaching him in a personalized way. "You catch on quickly," praised Julian. "You just needed someone to explain it properly. Mom doesn't know math well, and I didn't have anyone to help me. Now you do. For how long?" "Ethan, how many times do I have to say it? Forever." "Sorry. It's just hard to believe." "I understand, but I'm going to prove to you that this time it's for real. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. In the weeks that followed, Julian established a routine with the children. He took them to school in the morning, picked them up in the afternoon, helped with homework, had dinner with the family. Gradually, the children grew accustomed to his presence. Lily was the first to start calling him Daddy naturally. Maya took longer, but eventually also began to feel comfortable. Ethan still called him by his name, but with less hostility. Julian also began to get to know each child's personality better. Lily was spontaneous and affectionate, always ready to give and receive affection. Maya was more observant and careful, but had a sharp sense of humor when she felt at ease. Ethan was the most cautious, but also the deepest and most thoughtful. One day, Julian arrived home to find a tense situation. Ethan was clearly upset. Maya had been crying, and Lily was hiding behind her mother. "What happened?" he asked. "A problem at school," replied Valerie. "Ethan got into an argument with some boys." "An argument how?" "Verbal," clarified Ethan quickly. "It wasn't a fistfight." "But about what?" Ethan hesitated before answering. "They said bad things about my mom." "What did they say?" "Ethan, you don't need to repeat it," said Valerie. "Yes, he does," insisted Julian. "I want to know." Ethan looked at his mother, who nodded. "They said my mom was a gold digger, that she was pretending to be poor so you'd give her more money." Julian felt immediate anger. "Who said that?" "Some boys at school. Their parents saw you picking me up in the company car and started gossiping." "What kind of gossip?" "That you're rich and that my mom was playing the victim to get money." Julian took a deep breath, trying to control his anger. "And what did you say?" "I said it was a lie, that my mom never asked you for anything, that she works really hard and doesn't need to pretend anything." "And did they believe you?" "No. They said all women do that with a rich man." Julian knelt down to Ethan's level. "Ethan, do you believe that?" "No. I know who my mom is. I know she'd rather go hungry than ask you for anything." "Then why are you so upset?" "Because it's unfair. Because Mom suffered a lot, and now that things are getting better, people want to speak badly of her." Julian hugged his son. "Ethan, there will always be people talking. What's important is that we know the truth. But what if the other boys believe it? What if the girls start treating Maya and Lily badly?" Julian realized Ethan was worried about his sisters, not himself. "Ethan, if anyone says anything about your sisters, you let me know. We'll handle it together." "How?" "First, by talking. If talking doesn't work, we look for other ways." "What other ways?" "We can talk to the boys' parents. We can talk to the school principal. We can change your schools if necessary." "Change schools?" Maya looked worried. "But I like my school." "Only if you want to, and only if it's necessary. What's important is that you feel good and safe." "And if we don't want to change?" asked Lily. "Then we find another solution." "What solution?" "I don't know yet, but we'll find one. There's always a solution when the family works together." Ethan seemed calmer after the conversation. "Julian?" "Yes?" "Thank you for not getting mad at me for fighting at school." "Why would I be mad? You defended your mom and your sisters. That's what a man should do." "Really? Really? A man protects his family. You did the right thing." Ethan smiled for the first time since Julian had arrived. "Can I tell you something?" "You can tell me anything." "At first, when you showed up, I was scared you were going to try to split us up." "Split you up how?" "Take us to live with you and leave Mom alone, or fight with Mom in front of us." "And now?" "Now I see that you want us together. You, Mom, me, Maya, and Lily, a real family." "That's exactly what I want, Ethan. A family. Even if I don't want to call you Dad yet?" "Even if you never want to call me Dad. What's important is for you to know that I am your father, and that I will always be here for you." "Can I ask you a hard question?" "You can ask any question." "Do you love my mom?" Julian hesitated. It was a question he himself didn't know how to answer. "Ethan, I respect your mom very much. I admire her. I care for her. But love is a very complicated thing." "Why complicated?" "Because love isn't just a feeling. Love is also action. It's commitment. It's a choice. I abandoned you for 3 years. That wasn't love. And now? Now I am learning to love for real, to love you all. And maybe with time learn to love your mom again too." "Would you like to love her again?" "I would like to deserve her love again." Ethan became thoughtful. "She still likes you." "How do you know?" "Because she never spoke badly about you to us, Even when we were hungry, even when she was working too much, she never said it was your fault. She didn't speak badly of me. Never. She only said you were busy, that you had your own life. But she never spoke badly. Julian felt a tightness in his chest. That doesn't mean she likes me. It means she is too good a person. Maybe. But I think she does like you. Why do you think that? Because yesterday I saw her fixing her hair before you arrived. His son's observation made Julian smile. You noticed that? I did. And she bought a new outfit with the first money you gave. A new outfit. A blouse. Nothing too expensive, but new. She hadn't bought clothes for herself in over 2 years. Julian was moved to hear that. Ethan, can I ask you for something? Sure. If you think I'm doing something wrong with your mum, with you, or with your sisters, tell me. Even if it's hard, even if you think it will make me angry. Why? Because you know your family better than I do. Because you know what's best for you all. And because I trust your judgment. Ethan seemed surprised by the answer. You trust me? Completely. You had to grow up too fast in the last 3 years. You became the man of the house. You know things I'm still learning. What things? How to take care of your sisters. How to help your mum. How to be responsible. You already know all that. I learned because I had to. I know. And I'm so sorry you had to learn so early. But now you're not alone. Now we're partners. Partners how? Partners in taking care of our family. You and me together. Ethan extended his hand to Julian. Partners. Julian shook his son's hand, feeling he had finally earned a little of his trust. That night, after the children went to sleep, Julian and Valerie talked in the kitchen. How was the situation at school today, he asked. Difficult. Ethan was very upset. The girls were scared. And you? I'm worried this is just the beginning. People will always think I'm a gold digger. And do you care what people think? I do care, especially when it can affect the children. Valerie, do you want me to step back a bit? To lessen the comments? No, she answered quickly. No, Julian. The children are so happy. Ethan is doing better in school. Maya is more talkative. Lily is radiant to have a father. And you, how are you? Valerie hesitated before answering. I am confused. Confused how? Confused because I spent 3 years learning to live without you, learning not to depend on you. And now you're back and I don't know how to handle it. I don't know what my place is in this new story. Julian moved closer to her. Your place is whatever place you want it to be. If you want to be just the mother of my children, that's fine. If you want to try to be my friend, that's fine. If you want to try something more, that's fine too. And if I don't know what I want, then we'll figure it out together, no rush. No rush? No rush. We have time. We don't need to define anything now. Valerie nodded, seeming calmer. Julian? Yes? Thank you. For what? For coming back, for trying to be a real father, for not giving up when it was hard. Valerie, I'm the one who should thank you, for raising our children alone, for keeping them together, for being strong when I was a coward. We helped each other ruin everything. Now we can help each other fix it. We can, he agreed. One thing has changed, Julian. What? I'm not the same woman I was 3 years ago. These 3 years changed me. I imagine they changed me too. You knew me as dependent, fragile, needing you for everything. That woman doesn't exist anymore. And I knew myself as immature, selfish, thinking the world revolved around me. That man doesn't exist anymore either. So maybe we need to get to know each other again. Maybe we do. Like 2 adults who are learning to be parents together. Exactly. Valerie smiled, and Julian realized it was the first genuine smile he had received from her since he had returned. Can I ask you a question? She said. You can ask me anything. What do you feel for me now? Honestly. Julian thought carefully before answering. I feel respect, I feel admiration, I feel gratitude. I feel you are a much better person than I deserve to have in my life. And love? Do you feel love? Romantic love? I don't know. It's been a long time since I felt that for anyone. But love as family, as the mother of my children, as an important person in my life that I feel. It's honest of you to admit that. I'm trying to be honest about everything now. Lies have already caused too much trouble. And if romantic love came back, would you be scared? I would, because I don't want to ruin what we're building again. And if it didn't come back, would you be disappointed? No, because having you in my life, even if just as family, is already more than I ever imagined possible. Valerie was silent for a moment. Julian, yes? I still like you. The confession caught Julian off guard. You like me. I do. I don't know if it's love yet, but I like you. I like the man you're trying to become. I like the father you're being for the children. And what does that mean? I don't know. Maybe it means we can try to build something new, slowly, no rush, thinking of the children first. Would you like to try? I would. And you? Julian looked at Valerie, really saw her, saw the strong woman she had become, saw the dedicated mother she had always been, saw the person of integrity who had raised 3 wonderful children alone. I would like to very much. They kissed. It was a soft, careful kiss, full of possibilities, but in no rush to define anything. When they separated, they both smiled. And now? Asked Valerie. Now we continue slowly. Keep learning. Keep building. Do you think of the children first? Always. They always come first. Then I think we can try. In the months that followed, Julian and Valerie developed a completely new relationship. It was no longer the tumultuous marriage from before, nor was it just a partnership to raise the kids. It was something in between, growing day by day. Julian moved into a house in the same neighborhood, just a few blocks from the family. That way he could be present in their daily lives, without pressuring anyone. The children adapted well to the new dynamic. Ethan finally started calling Julian Dad, after he helped the boy prepare for a math championship at school. Maya discovered her father knew how to play guitar and asked to learn too. Lily simply blossomed with the attention and affection she was finally receiving from her father. The new house was ready after 6 months, and it was a truly family project. Each child chose their own room, their colors, their furniture. Valerie designed a large kitchen where the whole family could cook together. Julian made sure to include a home office where he could work and be close to everyone. On moving day, Julian and Valerie made their reconciliation official. It wasn't a traditional wedding, but a simple ceremony where they promised to be a united family and work together for the good of the children. Are you getting married again? Lily asked during the ceremony. We're not getting married, sweetheart, Valerie explained. We're promising to be a family. But do you like each other like people who get married do? We do, Julian admitted. But we're learning to like each other again, and we want to be sure before taking bigger steps. When will you be sure? Asked Maya. When you think we're ready, Valerie answered. We get to decide? Ethan seemed surprised. You'll give your opinion, because you know us well and know if we're truly happy or just pretending. Ethan smiled. So for now you're still getting to know each other. For now we're still learning to be a family, said Julian. And what if you find out it doesn't work? Asked Maya, worried. If we find out it doesn't work as a couple, we'll still be a family as friends and parents, Valerie assured. You'll never be without one of us again. Promise, insisted Lily. We promise, said Julian and Valerie together. The family's new life gradually settled in. Julian learned to balance work and family life. Valerie went back to studying, taking a business administration course to help with Julian's company. The children adapted to their new school, where they had better resources and opportunities. Most importantly, everyone learned to talk. Every week, the family would gather to discuss problems, plans, dreams, and worries. It was a sacred time where everyone had a voice and a vote. 1 year after the reconciliation, Ethan placed first in a national math competition. On the award day, Julian cried with pride watching his son receive the trophy. Dad, Ethan said after the ceremony. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for giving me a second chance. And thank you for teaching me that family is about being present, not about being perfect." Julian hugged his son, feeling he had finally become the father he should have always been. Maya discovered a talent for music and began composing her own songs. One of them, called "My Dad Came Back," was about forgiveness, second chances, and family reunited. When she sang the song for the family, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Lily grew up confident and affectionate, always ready to hug and forgive. She became the family's peace, the person who knew exactly what to say when someone was sad. Valerie blossomed in her new life. She graduated from the business administration program with top grades and became Julian's partner in the company. She discovered she had a talent for business and was soon managing the administrative side more efficiently than Julian himself. "Did you know I was good at this?" she asked one day. "I knew you were smart, but I never imagined you had such a talent for administration." "I didn't know either. I never had the chance to find out." "And how do you feel discovering this now?" "I feel fulfilled. I feel useful. I feel valued." "You were always valuable, Valerie. But now I know that I am. There's a difference between being valuable and knowing that you are valuable." Julian understood perfectly what she meant. 2 years after the reconciliation, Julian officially asked Valerie to marry him. But it wasn't a traditional proposal. It was during a weekly family meeting, in the presence of the children. "I have a proposal to make to the whole family," he announced. "What kind of proposal?" asked Ethan, always cautious. "I would like to ask your mother to marry me, but only if you all agree." The children exchanged excited looks. "Really?" asked Lily. "Really, but with one condition. If any one of you disagrees, I won't ask." "Why are you asking for our opinion?" asked Maya. "Because you are as much a part of this family as I am and your mother. Because you lived through what happens when adults make decisions without thinking of the children. This time, we want everyone to agree." Ethan looked at his sisters, then at his mother. "Mom, do you want to marry him again?" "I do, but also only if you agree." "And this time, will it be different?" asked Maya. "This time you won't separate again?" "This time is different because we are different," explained Julian. "Because we learned that family comes first. Because we learned to talk instead of fight. Because we learned that love is work, not just a feeling." "And if you fight?" asked Lily. "We will fight sometimes," admitted Valerie. "All people fight. But we will fight knowing we are a family, that we want to solve the problem, not hurt each other." Ethan was thoughtful for a long moment. "Can I ask a question to both of you?" "You can ask any question." "Do you really love each other this time? Or are you getting married just because of us?" Julian and Valerie looked at each other. "Ethan, we love each other," said Julian. "But it's a different love than before. It's more mature, more solid. It's a love that includes you, not one that competes with you. It's a love that grew because you exist, not in spite of you existing," Valerie added. Ethan smiled. "Then I agree." "I agree too," Maya said quickly. "I agree too," shouted Lily, jumping from her chair. "Can I be a maid of honor?" "You can all be maids of honor," said Julian, "and Ethan can be my best man." "Really?" The teenager seemed moved. "Really? You taught me how to be a father. Nothing is more fitting than for you to be my best man." Julian knelt in front of Valerie and took a ring from his pocket. "Valerie, will you marry me again, this time for real, forever, with our whole family as witness?" "I will," she answered, with tears in her eyes. When he placed the ring on her finger, the children erupted in applause and shouts of joy. "Now we're a real family," said Lily. "We were always a family," corrected Julian. "It just took me a while to learn that." The wedding was simple, but perfect. It was celebrated in the backyard of the new house with close friends and family present. The children really were maids of honor and best man, and they made sure to be part of every detail of the ceremony. During the vows, Julian spoke directly to the whole family. "Valerie, I promise to love you every day of my life. I promise to be your partner, your best friend, your companion in every adventure. Ethan, Maya, and Lily, I promise to be the father you deserve. I promise to be present, to be reliable, to be someone you can be proud of. I promise that our family always comes first. Always. Valerie also made her vows to the whole family. Julian, I promise to love you with the mature love we've built together. I promise to be your partner, your equal, your best friend. Ethan, Maya, and Lily, I promise to keep being the mother you need, but now with the peace of mind of knowing you have two parents who love each other and love you. I promise we will never again let pride or fear separate our family. When they exchanged rings, the children also received smaller rings, symbolizing they were part of that family commitment. Now it's official, said the officiant. You are a family united by love and by the conscious choice to be together. The celebration was joyful and full of music. Maya sang her composition about the father who returned, bringing tears to everyone present. Ethan gave an emotional speech about second chances and forgiveness. Lily simply danced the whole night, radiant with happiness. At the end of the party, when all the guests had left, the family gathered in the living room of the new house. How do you feel? Asked Julian. Complete, replied Ethan. For the first time in my life, I feel like part of a complete family. I feel safe, said Maya. Safe that you won't separate again, safe that I'll always have both of you. I feel like the luckiest girl in the world, declared Lily, because I have the best family in the universe. And you, Mom? Asked Ethan. I feel at peace, replied Valerie. At peace with myself, with our choices, with our future. And I feel grateful, said Julian. Grateful that you gave me a second chance, grateful for having learned what truly matters in life, grateful for having the most amazing family anyone could have. Lily snuggled into her father's lap. Daddy, you're never leaving again, right? Never again, princess. Never again. Even if we mess up, even if you mess up, even if I get angry, even if you get angry with me, family is forever. Really forever? Really forever. The girl smiled and closed her eyes, completely safe and loved. Julian looked around the room at his wife, his children, his home, his rebuilt life. He remembered the arrogant man who had gone to a run-down shack 3 years before, expecting to laugh at his ex-wife's misfortune. That man had found much more than he expected. He had found himself. He had found the meaning of family. He had found true love, not the romantic and immature love from before, but the solid, generous, and unconditional love of a united family. The greatest irony was that he had gone there to feel superior and had discovered he was the poorest of all, poor in love, poor in purpose, poor in family. Now, even while sharing his fortune with the family, he had never felt so rich. Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, please take a moment to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we are just starting out. Now continuing. 5 years after the wedding, the Sterling family had become an example in the community. Julian and Valerie ran a prosperous business together that provided jobs for dozens of people in the region. The children had grown up and become admirable young adults. Ethan, at 20, was studying engineering at the best university in the state, following in his father's footsteps, but with his own personality and values. He held a scholarship on his own merit and did volunteer work teaching math to underprivileged children. Maya, at 17, had become a talented composer and sang at church and community events. Her songs were about family, overcoming, and hope. She had also started a social project where she taught music to at-risk teenagers. Lily, at 13, was the joy of the family. Outgoing and affectionate, she had become the leader of her class at school and dreamed of becoming a psychologist to help families like hers reunite. Most importantly, everyone had learned to value what truly mattered. The family had enough money to live comfortably but never flaunted wealth. The children grew up understanding that privilege comes with responsibility and that their duty was to use their opportunities to help others. Julian and Valerie became role models in the neighborhood. Neighbors sought their advice for family problems. They had created a small community center where they offered free vocational courses and support for struggling families. Do you know why we do this? Julian asked the children one day as they returned from the community center. Because we are in a position to help, replied Ethan. That's one reason. What's the other? Because we know what it's like to struggle, said Maya. We know how important it is to have someone who believes in you when you've lost hope. Exactly. And what's the most important reason? Lily raised her hand, as if she were in school. Because family isn't just who lives in the same house. Family is who cares about you, and we can be family to a lot of people. Julian smiled proudly. Lily, you understood perfectly. Daddy, can I ask a question? Said Maya. You can ask anything. Do you regret taking 3 years to come back to us? The question was direct, as Maya tended to be when she wanted to understand something important. I regret it deeply, admitted Julian. They were the 3 worst years of my life, and they were 3 years I lost from your lives that I can never get back. But if you hadn't left, would you have learned to be the father you are today? She insisted. Julian thought about the question. Probably not. I was very immature, very selfish. Maybe I needed to lose you to understand your worth. Then maybe it was necessary, said Maya philosophically. Maybe you needed to make a mistake to learn how to get it right. Perhaps. But that doesn't justify the suffering I caused you. Daddy, we don't want you to feel guilty forever, said Ethan. We forgave you. We moved on. You need to forgive yourself too. Ethan is right, agreed Valerie. You've already proven you've changed. You've proven you've learned. You don't need to carry guilt forever. Besides, added Lily, if you keep feeling guilty, you can't enjoy the present, and the present is really good. Julian looked at his youngest daughter, impressed by her wisdom. When did you get so wise, Lily? Always. You just didn't notice. The family laughed, and Julian felt grateful once again for having such special people in his life. That night, after the children went to sleep, Julian and Valerie talked on the porch of their house. What are you thinking about? She asked, noticing he was quiet. I'm thinking about how life can change completely in just a few years. For better or for worse? Definitely for the better. 5 years ago I was a rich man, but completely empty. Today I am a fulfilled man, with an amazing family, with purpose in life. And you don't miss the old life, the freedom, the money just for yourself. Valerie, I have more freedom now than I did before. Before I was a slave to my ego, my fears, my immaturity. Now I am free to love, free to be true, free to be happy. And the money. Money is much more enjoyable when you have someone to share it with, when you can use it to do good, to bring joy to people you love. Valerie approached her husband and took his hand. Julian, I have a confession to make. What confession? When you showed up that day 5 years ago, I knew you had come to humiliate me. How did you know? Because I knew you. Because I knew you wouldn't be able to resist seeing if I was suffering. And even knowing that, you gave me a second chance? Not at first. At first I just wanted you to leave. First. But then seeing you with the children, seeing how you were really trying to be different, I thought, everyone deserves a second chance. And if I had wasted that chance, I would have protected the children and moved on with my life. But I believed you could change. Why? Because I saw you crying when Lily asked if she could call you Dad. Because I saw you kneeling on the floor eating potato soup as if it were the best feast of your life. Because I saw you putting the children ahead of your pride. Julian was moved by his wife's words. Thank you for believing in me when I didn't even believe in myself. You're welcome. That's what family does, isn't it? Believes in each other even when it's hard. Yes, and we are quite a family. We really are. They were silent for a moment, watching the stars. Valerie? Yes? I love you. Not just as the mother of my children. Not just as my partner. I love you as a woman, as a person, as my soulmate. I love you too, Julian. You. The way you are today, the way you've become. Do we promise to never let pride or fear separate our family again? We promise, and this time it's for real. They kissed under the stars, 2 adults who had learned to truly love, who had built a solid family based on respect, communication, and mutual commitment. 10 years after the reconciliation, the Sterling family was gathered for a special celebration. Ethan had graduated with a degree in engineering and received an offer to work for a major construction company in the capital. Do you think I should accept? He asked during the celebratory dinner. "What do you want to do?" asked Julian. "I want to accept. It's a great professional opportunity, but I also don't want to move away from the family." "Ethan, you have to follow your dreams," said Maya. "We'll always be here when you need us." "But what if I get homesick? What if I find out I can't live far from you all?" "Then you come back," said Lily, pragmatic. "We're not going to disappear from here." Julian looked at his eldest son with pride. "Ethan, remember when you asked me if I was going to stay forever?" "I remember." "And remember what I answered?" "That family is forever, no matter the distance." "Exactly. You could live in China and you'd still be my son. You'd still be part of this family. And if you need anything, we'll be here." Ethan smiled. "Then I'll accept the offer." "And we'll visit you often," promised Valerie. "And you'll come back for the holidays," added Maya. "And you'll tell everyone you have the most amazing family in the world," said Lily. Ethan got up from the table and hugged each family member. "Thank you for teaching me that family isn't about always being together physically. It's about always being together in heart." Julian felt a tightness in his chest, realizing that the boy he had met at 15, rebellious and distrustful, had become a mature and confident man, secure in his family's love. "Ethan, do you have any doubts about our family?" he asked. "None. You taught me that true love doesn't bind, it sets free. That's why I can leave, knowing I can always come home." 2 years later, Ethan returned from the capital, bringing a girlfriend to meet the family. Clara was a young architect, intelligent and caring, who fit perfectly into the family dynamic. "Do you approve?" asked Ethan after Clara had left. "The question isn't whether we approve," said Julian. "The question is, do you love her?" "I do, and she loves me too." "Does she make you happy?" "Very happy." "Does she respect you? Respect your family?" "Completely." "Then she has our approval," said Valerie. "But the decision is yours." "Actually," said Ethan, smiling, "I wanted to ask for your blessing. Clara and I want to get married." The family erupted in joy. Lily began planning the wedding immediately. Maya offered to compose a special song for the ceremony, and Julian and Valerie were moved to see they had raised a son who knew how to recognize and value true love. Ethan's wedding was a celebration of the family they had built. Clara was welcomed not as a stranger, but as a daughter who was already part of the group. During the wedding, Ethan gave a speech that moved everyone. "Dad, Mom, thank you for teaching me what a real family is, for showing me that love is about commitment, respect, loyalty, for teaching me that a real man takes care of his family, is present, is trustworthy. Clara, I promise to be for you the husband my father learned to be for my mother. I promise our family will be built on the same values I learned here: honesty, communication, unconditional love." When Ethan and Clara had their first child, Julian became a grandfather. Holding his little grandson in his arms was a transformative experience. "What will you be called?" Lily asked her brother. "Grandpa Julian." "You can call me whatever you want," said Julian, enchanted with the child. "The important thing is that he knows he has a grandfather who loves him more than anything." "Do you think you'll be a good grandfather?" asked Maya. "I'll try to be the best grandfather possible, just as I tried to become the best father possible." "You succeeded," said Ethan. "You became the father I always wanted to have." "Thank you, son. That is the greatest achievement of my life." Maya married at 25 to a music professor she met in college. It was a simple wedding full of music, which perfectly reflected her personality. Lily became a psychologist, as she had always dreamed, and specialized in family therapy. Her work helped families in crisis to come together and communicate better. "Daddy, do you know why I chose to work with families?" she asked one day. "Why?" "Because I saw what a family can become when people are willing to forgive, to grow, to choose love every day. I want to help other families discover that too." "Lily, you are amazing. You take our experience and turn it into something that can help other people. I learned from you. I learned that the best stories are about people who get lost and find each other again." At 65, Julian decided to retire from the company and spend more time with the grandchildren who were now starting to arrive. He and Valerie traveled across Brazil, visiting places they had always wanted to see, but now with the peace of mind of those who had built a solid family. "Do you regret anything?" asked Valerie during a trip to Fernando de Noronha. "I regret the 3 years I wasted, but I don't regret the path we walked afterward. Every mistake taught me something. Every difficulty made us stronger." "And about the future? Are you afraid of anything?" "I'm afraid of dying before seeing my grandchildren grow up. I'm afraid of not being able to be a good example for them, but I'm not afraid of dying because I know our family will remain strong after we're gone." "Why are you so sure?" "Because our children learned the right values, because they know family comes first, because they know how to truly love." "And will they teach that to their children?" "I'm sure they will." True love multiplies, Valerie. It spreads from generation to generation. At a family gathering to celebrate 15 years of reconciliation, Julian gave a speech that summed up the entire journey. "Family, I want to tell you a story. 15 years ago, an arrogant and selfish man went to a rundown shack to laugh at his ex-wife's situation. He thought he was rich, superior, successful. When he got there, he discovered he was the poorest of all. Poor in love, poor in purpose, poor in family. That woman he wanted to humiliate had become the richest person he knew, rich in dignity, in strength, in love for her children. That man had a choice, to keep being poor in spirit or to learn how to be truly rich. He chose to learn, and you, my family, were his teachers. Valerie, you taught me that true strength isn't about dominating, it's about serving. Ethan, you taught me that respect is earned through presence and reliability. Maya, you taught me that love is expressed through small daily gestures. Lily, you taught me that forgiveness is the foundation of any true relationship. Today, 15 years later, that man has been transformed, not because he became financially richer, but because he learned what true wealth is. True wealth is having a family that loves you not for what you have, but for who you are. It's having children who respect you because you've earned that respect. It's having a wife who chooses to love you every day, not out of obligation, but of her own free will. Thank you, family, for giving me the chance to become a better person. Thank you for believing I could change when even I didn't believe it. Thank you for being my school of life, my university of love." Ethan stood up to respond for the group. "Dad, we want to thank you too. You taught us that people can truly change when they're willing to work for it. You taught us that a mistake doesn't define character, but rather how a person deals with the mistake afterward. You taught us that it's never too late to start over, to do things differently, to choose love. Most importantly, you taught us that family is about conscious choice. Sharing the same blood isn't enough. You have to choose to be present, choose to support, choose to forgive, choose to love every day. Thank you for choosing our family every day for the last 15 years. That night, after everyone had left, Julian and Valerie sat on the same porch where they'd had so many important conversations over the years. "Julian, can I ask you one last question?" said Valerie. "You can ask all the questions you want. If you could go back in time, would you change anything?" Julian thought for a long moment. "You know, Valerie, for a long time I thought I'd change everything, that I'd make sure I never abandoned you all. But today I realize that our story, with all its mistakes and difficulties, brought us here. It made us the people we are today. So you wouldn't change anything?" "I would change just one thing. I wish I had been mature enough to recognize my mistakes sooner, to not have let pride keep me away from you for 3 years. But the rest, I'd leave the same. Because it brought us here, to this life, to this family?" "That's a wise answer. I learned from the best teacher," he said, kissing his wife's hand. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of this story of overcoming and second chances. Do you believe people can really change when they are truly remorseful? Have you experienced a similar situation in your own family? Leave your sincere comments below. Your opinion is very important to us. And don't forget to leave your like, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other moving stories like this one.